Hey guys, StarCraft here, and like I said the other day, before I did that Superman 7 review, originally I had something else planned. But because I did that review, kind of threw things off, and a lot of things I said in those intros now would be a bit redundant. So I'm going to start over again. And today, those of you who don't know, I am going to be talking about the three, continue on from my He-Man Thundercats review, the three origin issues for the Masters of the Universe DC run that came out. I'm going to be going in chronological order, starting with The Secret Origins of Hordak by Keith Giffen. Then I will be doing The Secret Origins of Skeletor by Joshua Filikov and Fraser Irving. The guy known for doing that nowadays, for doing that image of Peter going, "Duh." And then Joshua again doing The Secret Origins of He-Man with artwork by Ben Oliver. These three books set up how this universe is going to operate in many ways. And it also basically shows, in a way, origins that could still kind of fit with the cartoons if they went with a darker approach, kind of like the 2000 series. But again, still doing their own thing. And yeah, well, you'll see why by the time we're all done. See you at the end. Like I said, we're going to be going chronological order. And the first one, as I also said, is by Keith Giffen with help by Brian Keene, a frequent collaborator. And Keith Giffen did the artwork. Giffen definitely always subscribed to the school of Jack Kirby, and it's very good. And this one is not going to be that long of a tale, really, because this one is basically all about Hordak's brother, Zodak, who is basically the lone survivor, it seems, as he's trying to climb his way up through the planet they are on. But as they do, they soon come upon Hordak, who is basically taunting him, and obviously going with the Kirby-ness of it all. And Hordak is full of so many cosmic energies. Millions of the Horde are dead, or at least as far as Zodak is concerned. But Hordak informs him, not dead, transform. They are all from the energy after which they were born, and he has since absorbed them. And Hordak is basically taunting his brother, saying, "Come to me." Zodak makes his way up, determined to stop his brother, as we soon see Hordak holding the skull of his father, Horde Prime. You do not know how much I actually appreciate this. If there was one thing I could not stand about She-Ra, it was the concept of Horde Prime. That Hordak, the big bad of the show, the guy who in the initial Secret of the Sword movie was the ultimate evil, had a boss. Not just that, a boss he cowered to, and a boss we had no idea what the motivation for, and he was even more of a mystery, but not in the good way. Here, he's Hordak and Zodak's brother and father, and he's basically been reduced to a skull. This would come up later on in the series, and this is more of a retrospective retconning things into it. But anyway, Hordak has absorbed so much of the Horde energy that he basically is proclaiming himself the master of the universe, taunting his brother to continue further, as Zodak continues to fight off creatures after creatures, until he finally comes into a battle, and the two come to blows, fighting, Hordak breaking his brother's staff and basically becoming victorious, taunting his brother about how in the past every defeat they've had to deal with was made him so arrogant. But now the Hordak that his brother fought no longer exists, and he soon absorbs his brother's energies into him. And Zodak saying, "I reject you," and Hordak would expect no less. Then, in the very end of this story, Hordak makes his way up to the top and gives a decree. "In the beginning there was Hordak. Let the rest of Hordak's testament be writ in blood. By the power of darkness incarnate, I have the power." Wow. This was an interesting idea, making Hordak very much like Darkseid, in a way that it's kind of clever and still stays true to the He-Man mythos in its own way. Next up is the Skeletor origin. this one is my personal favorite. You see, unlike the Hordak's origin, and then what we come up with the He-Man origin, this one, Hordak, is coming up as a straight-on villain. And yeah, he wants all this power, but he wants it so he can subjugate the universe. He feels it is his destiny. It is his right. But he's still a straight-on bad guy. But in this case, though, with Skeletor, we find out that it's much more. Because you see, this whole issue is about a death. The death of Skeletor, King Randor's brother, and his advisor, and the man who would become Skeletor. And okay, I know Fraser Irving gets a lot of flack this day with his Marvel work, but you gotta remember, back at DC, he was at his A game, and it shows with just this first page. Look at that. Just look at that damage done to Skeletor as his face is starting to melt. You see, we're opening up after an assassination attempt on his brother, King Randor's life, and he realizes he needs to make it back to the palace. Why? We don't know yet. But as he's heading back, obviously since he's dying, his life is flashing before his eye as he thinks back to a day when they were youngsters, and a horde soldier came by, ready to take King Randor, and Skeletor got up, struck down the man, and was ready to kill him when Randor said, "No, Father would want to interrogate him, and then we can learn from where he came from." As he's heading back, Skeletor mentioned how his eyes now are starting to burn, probably indicating that they're being eaten away by the acid. We then cut to not that further back when Randor had become king, and that Skeletor was to become his aide as per their father's request. And he remembers how Randor said, "I tried to convince him, but this was how it was supposed to be." You see, the reason behind Skeletor's blue skin is that he is a Gar, a race notorious, we would later find out, among Eternians, because one of their own killed King Grayskull. So, because of that note and infamousy, there was no way that Skeletor was, despite being the older brother, was ever going to rise on the throne. Even though deep down he feels, and even Randor agrees, he deserves it. And then we find out not long after Randor's ascension that Hordak has been whispering into Skeletor's ear that he basically furthering his push for thinking he deserved everything, and that it was never to be, however. And basically Hordak has been playing to Skeletor's ego. We also find out that he wasn't exactly still perfect. Even as a boy was the Horde trooper, he tortured the guy trying to get information out. Then, back in the present day, Skeletor collapses as he, for a moment, shatters the pieces. But then he meets up with Death, who's basically saying, "I have waited for you. And what could a pitiful speck like you ever do?" And what does he do? He attacks Death. And basically, in other words, fighting off Death so he can keep on moving. And we find out that even with the Horde troop, that their father kept giving him, Randor, the accolades. Basically acting like, "Oh, you did a lot of the work, and Skeletor helped you." And Randor is still concentrating, saying, "No, father, it was all him." And the father basically would not allow it, hear any of it. Basically saying, "This proves why you should lead, and he should be your advisor." Showing the constant favoritism. Present day, Randor finds his brother and still shows how much he cares for him, but at the same time confused. Why did you do this? And Skeletor says the rightful ruler must be put to the throne. Randor believes that means Hordak, but no, Skeletor still thinks it's him. And Randor is acting like it could never be. But you were to be my advisor. I need you. And together we can do stuff so grand. But it shows very clear that Skeletor believes, no, it should always be all me. And Randor flat admits, "I'm lost without you." And Skeletor says, "You are lost." He takes off his hood, and we see Skeletor's face is gone. And for a moment you think he's there asking for forgiveness for his betrayal. But no, the forgiveness he's asking for is for what he's about to do. And he stabs Randor, taking at least some of his blood. As then a portal opens and he leaves. Providing the blood to Hordak was his part of the agreement. As Hordak uses his technology and sorcery to enchant Skeletor and allow him to survive. And Skeletor is born. And good God, this is a tragedy. I mean, you really feel for Skeletor, but at the same time, he brought this upon himself. But you understand why he had such a, kind of like Loki, a rough upbringing that he felt was something was rightfully his. Although unlike Loki, he was adopted, Skeletor is a rightful blood heir, but it was never meant to be, but he would never accept that. And with Hordak constantly whispering into his ear, yeah, no wonder he became this way. This is just so good. So good. And I gotta say though, once you see from here, once he became Skeletor, it's quite clear Skeletor became a bit more transparently evil, at least at first. And last but, well, I don't want to say most certainly not least, because it is actually my least favorite of the stories, is the the origins of He-Man. Now, I say it's my least favorite, but it's not saying it's a bad thing. It opens up with with Adam under a bunch of rubble, and with the Sword of Power near him, and he grabs the sword and says,
"By the power of Grayskull,
yeah, I still love that line. And Skeletor is just like, who are you? Basically, we open in media res, as we rewind to earlier when Adam is asleep hearing all these noises. He goes to his parents' room and finds they are petrified, stuck in some kind of, frozen state. We then come back to the present where Skeletor and He-Man are fighting, and Skeletor clearly has no idea who He-Man is. And yeah, they are just fighting it out. Then back to the past, He-Man is running down and sees some of the guards are also frozen. Skeletor is walking through the hallway, and he taunts Adam, which, given how we would later find out how much Skeletor and Adam were close, either says that he just doesn't care anymore, or he's trying to keep up who he is as a disguise. But he taunts him big time, basically telling him, because you are a coward. Show me the sword of King Grayskull, and I will restore your parents. And if not, well, perhaps I will wear your skull as a crown. Oh boy, if the original Skeletor had said something like that, that would have been awesome. Then Adam goes for a sword on a coat of arms, and hands it to him. But Skeletor, having been around the palace, he knows for a fact that ain't it. And it turns out He-Man had a feeling. He was trying to fight it out, but again, this Skeletor is no dummy, as he knocks Adam around. Wow. Just seeing Skeletor knocking Adam around. We never really saw that in the cartoon. And yeah, this is still interesting. But then it's at this moment where Skeletor finally realized something he was so blinded to back at his time when he was Skeletor. The tapestry that showed the legend of King Grayskull, how he fought off the hordes of Hordak and forged the sword. And that's when they realized the sword is in the tapestry. Then as he's about ready to take it, and Adam tries to come for his weapon, but then Skeletor zaps him. And then Adam gets a vision from the sorceress. You'll find out after the first opening arc, but this is one of the few actual full appearances we will have of the sorceress in this whole ongoing series. As she basically revealed his destiny to him, how he is the heir to King Grayskull. And yet Adam is all like, I am not ready. But she also points out that that your father did not know your destiny as you were raised, but it is your destiny, and you must embrace it. So as Skeletor is destroying the tapestry, the Sword of Power ends up appearing near Adam as he takes it, and we cut back to the beginning again. Wow. like I said, it's my least favorite because it basically doesn't, and it jumps around a bit too much, if you ask me. Really, the whole going back and forth wasn't entirely necessary. And I just feel like, oh, it's just saying, it's your destiny, pick up the sword, boom. I do like, though, how Skeletor is basically one-upping Adam every step of the way. It's nice to see, basically, Skeletor kicking ass. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say on this one, and that's the last of the 3 books. So that was the 3 origin issues, and they really get the ball rolling, if you ask me. Well, I do find Hordak is a bit more out there, and by the end of it, it more just sets up his character than it really sets up anything that comes to use. And the He-Man one was my least favorite, mostly because it just felt a little, you're destined and everything, but it was still very interesting opening and handling of the first time he held off his magic sword. But the Skeletor one is clearly the one that really established a great character in Keldor, who would be Skeletor. And you really start to feel for him, and trust me, that comes up so much throughout majority of the DC series. So, yeah, and that's pretty much the 3 origin issues. I'll eventually be getting to the other Masters of the Universe comics, but within the next few days, I have my little thing I teased about. The one East Event Skybird comic I think sucked. I'll probably either do it tomorrow or in 2 days, depending on how events go and everything. But I will get to it, but I want you guys to keep on guessing. What is it? I can assure you it's not Cyberfrog related at all, but I am not going to say one way or the other what it is. So, and take care and see you all later.